And just as we were completing that first block, she stopped suddenly. And I was on high alert, so I turned to look at her, and she gave a huge full body shake. Hi, Al. Doc Murthy here. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I have been doing trauma-informed schools work for the last 13 years. I was out walking with Maite, the Rottweiler, the other day, and I'll tell you, I see people walking their dogs, and they have their phones out, and they're scrolling, and maybe they're texting people. That is not the kind of walk that we have at all. Let me tell you a little bit about Maite. 1, she's a Rottweiler. 2, she weighs about 80 pounds. 3, she is a rescue. And what that means for Maite is that many things alarm her. Many things seem to be trauma reminders for her. And if she's having a rider off the horse moment, you will know it if you're anywhere near us. She has a big loud bark. She growls. She gets on her back legs and paws at the air menacingly. What kinds of things are trauma reminders for her? It's hard to say. Garage doors going up, garage doors going down, people coming out from behind a car, people closing the door to their home, even if they're going inside, dogs coming toward us, dogs walking away from us. Let me just say that these walks, I am highly vigilant, as is she. On the morning of this walk, nothing really major happened in my mind before we left the house. Someone did come over, but it's someone that she likes well enough, and we only really had a short conversation, and then she and I left for the walk. Whenever we go for a walk, I'm prepared. I have a belt on, I have my poop bags, I have my treat pouch, and I'm a generous treater. I would rather she was looking at me hoping for a treat than looking around and noticing all the strange things that are happening in her environment. On this day, as soon as I gave her the first treat, I knew that she was stressed. When she's not stressed, she takes the treat gently. I can barely tell that she's taken it. If she's a little bit stressed, I'll feel her teeth against my fingers. If she's very stressed, she gets what I call sharky, and I can actually feel the scrape of her tooth against my fingertips. Now, this isn't a bite, and it doesn't hurt, but I can tell from the pressure of her mouth how stressed out she is. So on this day, that very first treat, she was sharky. And I looked around, I was like, what is going on? Because usually, if she gets sharky, I can tell why. But I looked around, I didn't see anything. Our walks are not generally fast-paced things. These walks are sniffaries, opportunities for her to check out the neighborhood, make sure everything is A-okay. And so I took my time doing the very first block. I went pretty slowly. I gave out a lot of treats, some of which I threw on the ground so she could search for them. And just as we were completing that first block, she stopped suddenly. And I was on high alert, so I turned to look at her, and she gave a huge full body shake. And as soon as she did that full body shake, the very next treat she took from my hand, I could barely feel her mouth. All of that reminded me of the last book we did in our book club, which is Burnout by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. And in that book, which is an awesome book, I highly recommend that you read it. It has lots of great information and cool strategies. But the main point I want you to know here is that they encourage us, each of us, to take the time every day to complete the stress cycle. Again, in the book, there's lots of ideas. Completing the stress cycle could be something as vigorous as going running or as relaxed as, silent meditation. But the important thing to know is it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be something as simple as a progressive muscle relaxation as you're lying in bed, getting ready to sleep. Maite's whole body shake is a very visible way that many dogs release stress and tension. It really had me thinking, because when I do the work that I do in schools, with educators, with administrators, one of the first things I want to talk about is how the grown-ups are taking care of themselves, how they're communicating and connecting with one another. What are the ways that they feel safe? Because you can bet that if the adults don't feel safe and connected, if the adults don't feel like what they do or say matters, they will not be able to convey that to students. For myself, a run is my favorite way to complete the stress cycle. It's my favorite way to reduce some of the stress, even if I can't do anything about the stressors. But the truth is, I don't have time for that every day. And so often I find myself feeling the stress and being unable to do anything about it. because I get focused on the big, vigorous things that I do to reset my nervous system. These days, I'm feeling a lot of external pressures. And the more pressured I feel, the more I want those big, full body shakes. At the same time, the more pressured I feel, the less time I feel like I have. So I'm curious, what is your full body shake? What are the things you like to do, whether they're big and vigorous or small and quiet? Who are the people that remind you that you could do a small and quiet thing? Who are the people that encourage you to do the big, vigorous thing? Knowing that we have these tools and strategies in our minds isn't always enough to actually see them through. We often need an accountability buddy. We often need to write it in our calendars. We need to make time for ourselves, even little short periods of time. The thing about these processes that help us complete the stress cycle is that if we don't do them regularly, our stress accumulates. And if it accumulates, it can make us sick. So for myself today, what I'm going to do is put on some headphones and sing at the top of my lungs, just one song. Take a moment and think about what are the ways that you do the full body shake. Maybe make a list from the vigorous all the way down to the more calm, and then let me know in the comments what's one action you're going to take for yourself today. As always, like and subscribe for more content. Take care, y'all.